Hey there neighbors, Kevin here with eTrailer, and today we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Demco Autoslide fifth wheel trailer hitch for the GM puck system here in our 2025 GMC Sierra 2500. If you own a short bed truck, there can be quite a bit of an inconvenience when it comes to actually towing your fifth wheel trailer, just because there's not always enough room for you to get that full 90-degree turn in, which leaves you wondering how you're going to be able to do so. Now, there are a few other options besides just your fifth wheel hitch. You can swap out the pin box on your fifth wheel trailer and get a rotating one, which will push that pivot point back further. Or you can switch over to a sliding fifth wheel hitch like our Autoslide right here. Now, this one is more of your premium option when it comes to sliding hitches, because it's going to automatically slide with you as you start to make those turns. So as we turn this head, it's going to force back on these rails that we have right here and give us that extra clearance so that we're not contacting the cab of our truck with the nose of our trailer. This is going to make it a much more convenient camping trip for you, because now you're not going to have to get out of your truck, walk back, flip the latch to engage the slider base, walk all the way back into your truck, pull forward just so that the head will slide back into the maneuvering position. Then you can make your turn. But then you got to get right back out of your truck, come back here, unlatch it again, and then back your truck up more towards the trailer so it pushes the head forward and then locks it back into the towing position. So something that could take you just a couple of seconds is now taking you more like 10 to 15 minutes, just because there's a lot of extra stuff to do instead of just easily backing right into your space. So this is going to be a much higher price tag, but it's going to give you that convenience and not waste your time, which in my opinion, time is going to be the most important thing and the most expensive thing. So the way that it does this is it's going to have these capture plates on the side here. Now, these are specific to certain pin boxes, and they're not going to be compatible with every single pin box, so you'll definitely want to make sure that you verify exactly what you have on your fifth wheel trailer. Now, these are going to essentially just clamp in, and once that pin box comes up on here and we hook in our kingpin into the jaws here, these are going to press up against the side of the pin box, and it's going to not allow it to pivot inside of our jaws. Now our pivot point is the head of our trailer hitch instead, so that way we're getting that extra clearance as it slides back. As you're setting up your capture plates, you want to make sure that you go and you measure the width of your pin box, and then you'll want to set these so that they're an 1/8 inch spaced out from your pin box. So if you measured your pin box at 12 inches wide, you'd want to have these about 12 1/8 inch apart. This specific model is going to come with an 18,000 pound gross towing weight capacity, as well as a 4,500 pin weight capacity. The gross tow weight capacity is the weight of your trailer, so you want to make sure that you double check the GVWR and make sure that this is capable of towing that. And the pin weight is also going to be listed on there as well for your trailer, and that's that downward force from the pin box pressing against our hitch here. So it's especially important that you're checking that out as well for your vehicle, because you don't want to overload the vehicle and end up damaging it, whether that be your suspension or actually damaging the entire bed. Now, when it comes to coupling up, we have a nice 360-degree jaw here, so that way we're getting full contact around our kingpin. And to top it off, we also have a 1-inch thick slide bar right here at the end of it, so that way there's 2 full inches here helping hold our kingpin in place. Now, this is pretty simple to function here. We're just going to pop out our pin and clip here, then we can pull our jar over. A little bit easier if you're outside the truck trying to pull it over. Once we are in this coupling position, we can then back up to our trailer, and this has already got a downward tilt. We want to make sure that we're hitting the hitch about 1 inch or 1/2 inch above it with our pin box. So we'll be right coming in here, and as you couple up to it, it's going to even back out, and that rubber dampener is going to come into contact that we put on the bottom of our hitch head with our base here. Now, then when it's ready to go, we'll pop in our handle there, but typically the weight of the kingpin pressing against that's going to force that right back automatically. Just pop in your pin and clip, and you're safe to tow. Now, since we have the OE legs on this, we're dropping into our puck system, which makes it pretty convenient because it's a lot easier to put your hitch in and out, and it also gives you a nice clear bed. Now, with this is only going to have 2 heights. So on our lower height here, it's going to be 18 inches for our hitch height, and up top it's going to be 19.5. Now, typically we're ranging anywhere from like 17 inches up to 19 inches with most trailer hitches. With this truck already sitting really high up, you might run into some issues where now your trailer's not going to tow level, so you might have to look into actually a lift kit or some other means of raising up your trailer so that way it's riding level with your vehicle and give you a much safer towing experience. Now, with this being such a heavy fifth wheel hitch, you're probably not going to be popping this in and out much. This is probably going to be living in the bed of your truck. Now, if you do have an engine hoist, Demco does offer an anchor that can fit inside of the jaws here that you can use to lift it up with and get it in and out a whole lot easier. But for those of you that don't have that option, I highly recommend picking up a tonneau cover. That way you can just close it right up and protect your fifth wheel hitch from any kind of rain or snow, anything that's going to cause any kind of corrosion here. Because the big thing here is keeping your rails nice and clean and lubricated, as well as your gears. So just with that, I've already disconnected this little strip right here. It's going to be 2 Phillips head screws, and that's going to allow you to look down into your gears here. So we have this big gear that you're going to see going across, and that's for our function for turning here with our hitch head. And then there's going to be some strips where the gears are going to mesh into on the sides. We want to make sure that every single time we are towing with this hitch, we're popping that off and just taking a look inside, making sure that there's nothing stuck in there and that there's no kind of corrosion buildup that could potentially bind up our hitch, because if it binds up while we're trying to turn, it's not going to allow us to have our trailer track properly behind us. So there's a whole setup inside of the instructions that's going to go through and tell you how to grease everything inside of here, as well as some other components that are internal that you can take apart to get to. But some of these aren't going to be an everyday kind of maintenance routine. Some of it is a once in a while, but for the majority of it, you definitely want to make sure that you're greasing up this, and then also you can grease up your handle. So if you pull that out, you can get some grease on there so that it can easily slide back and forth. And then there's also going to be some points inside of our hitch head that we're going to be greasing as well. Now, if you start to feel like there's too much slop in your head here, where it's turning way too easily, technically I shouldn't really be able to push this. You need more weight than that. You need it to be that fifth wheel hitch. On the back here, there's a big bolt with a jam nut on it, and that's what we use to tighten up that slop with our gear right here, so that way our hitch head's not kind of waving behind us. That's going to allow our trailer hitch to kind of start to sway back and forth. So if you start to see that, definitely take your hitch apart, make sure that you're greasing everything, cleaning everything up, and then you can start retensioning that bolt so that way everything tracks properly. This bolt right here also is listed as something that's going to need to be greased every once in a while. So this is something where you're going to have to pull it off. If you are buying this hitch, I'd recommend just picking up a torque wrench. Make sure that you have every kind of tool you need with you, and honestly, I would probably throw that torque wrench right in the back seat of my truck. That way, if I'm ever out on the road, I have it ready to go. Now, if you do have to have your truck bed emptied out when you're done towing and you don't have an engine hoist to help lift this in and out, there are other options for you out there that aren't a manual slider. So Pull-Right has a couple of options as well that you can use. Now, it's not as much material and it looks a little bit plainer compared to this guy right here, but it's a little bit lighter because it has that less material and still going to give you that same function of an auto slide hitch. So that way you're not having to get out every single time. Now that one is set up a little bit differently. There are different capture plates that are going to go with it. So that's another one where you're really going to have to make sure that you do your homework and figure out exactly what you have so you can get the correct components to go with it. Now that we've gone over some of the specifics, let's show you how we got it installed. To start off our install, we've got our hitch up in our bed here. We have it sitting on the pallet. That way we aren't damaging our bed. If you have this at home and you're trying to do this, I would probably throw down some kind of mat or something like that to help protect your bed so you're not scratching it all up, because this hitch is very heavy and it's kind of hard to maneuver around, and we've got a lot of components that we need to kind of get into place here. So the big one being our feet, because we have the GM puck system. So with this plate right here, you're going to have 2 of these in the kit, and this is going to be our outside right here with the pin and clip. So we'll need to have this facing in towards our hitch, and now there's going to be 2 different heights. So our upper height is going to use the upper side of this bracket, and then our lower height is going to be that lower side right here. Now we're not going to be using every single hole. The last 2 holes are just going to be hanging off the back here And in my case, I'm going to be going with that lower hole. So I'm going to butt it up right there and match up all of those holes. So these 4 plus our front one right here. In your kit, you'll find some flange bolts and flange lock nuts as well. We're going to be placing this so that the flange bolt's on the outside. So when we come through, it'd come through like this. And then on the inside, there's a channel inside of here. And that's where we're going to come in with that flange lock nut. And that's going to come through just like that. Now, it's very important that you don't mix these up either. So we don't want to be using that top hole on our legs with the bottom hole on our hitch. These are very specific, and doing so would void your warranty and potentially lead to some issues. So make sure that you're using the correct hole for whichever height setting that you're needing here. But with all that said, I'm going to get some of these put in real quick. If you get one on the outside edges, that'll help hold up your hitch. So let's line that up. And then with my other, we'll get that lined up as well. That'll help hold it in while we get the other 2 in place. Now we'll have to get up under it and thread on our lock nut. Now we're going to be using a 3/4 inch socket and wrench. It's a little hard to get your wrench on the inside here, so you might, or at least a socket, so you might have to switch to a stubby wrench just to get that on and then crank down on the bolt head itself. That's what I'm going to do in this case just because it is such a tight fit here. And there's really not a lot of room to work with. And we'll tighten each of these down. And once you get each one of these tightened down, we'll come back and torque them as well. Now in the instructions, they tell you to just tighten it down. They don't list the torque right in that setting, but they have a torque table to the left. I think it's like the second page on there. And that lists out all of the sizes of hardware with the torque that's going to go with that. So you'll want to look at that chart. This is the 1/2 inch hardware. We're going to be torquing down here. Got the front 2 done. We'll get the back ones. Next, we're going to install our outrigger, which is this bar right here, and it's got a foam pad on the bottom of it. And what this does is it mounts up right here with the included hardware. And as all that weight starts to shift forward here, that's going to help distribute it. So it's kind of pressing on this bar and spreading that weight out along the bed instead of having all of that weight just sitting on this one point wherever the hitch head is at as it starts to slide back. Because as it slides back, we're now getting further and further behind the axle, which ends up causing a whole lot more sag because now we're not distributing it between the front axle and the back axle. It's all on the back axle. So to get that ready, I'm just going to thread on 1 jam nut on the top of the bar or bolt here. And then I'm going to drop that in. Get our jam nut on this side in, and this I'll put up quite a bit. Give ourselves some room to work with here. Now we're going to thread in the outrigger bar. We're going to go until that is just touching the foam. Now I can feel it on the bottom there, so that one's good. Come over to our other side here. You drop that jam nut down a bit. Now we have our base all ready to go. We're going to drop this into our puck system and then put on our hitch head. And to do so, we're going to pull up on these pins on each of our feet here. And then if you just pull this straight out, it's going to turn our foot right here. So you can see how it's unlocking, locking, unlock. So we want to have these all in that unlocked position. And the nice thing about this one, while the handle's loose, the actual mechanism there for the foot isn't. On a lot of these OEM ones, typically the handles are kind of free-flowing side to side, and it's easy for them to get out of alignment there, so then it's a lot harder to throw your fifth wheel hitch in. So I do really like that this one stays in its space until you actually go and you push that back into place. Now with an extra set of hands, we're going to set our base into place here using our arms here to line up. Got yours. Now when we went to put our hitch in, we were having some issues. We were just slightly off, and with the side plates tightened down, we unfortunately couldn't get it in. Now that's just because there are slight variances when stuff gets welded up. This is a common problem. Even when I was answering questions on the expert team, we still had to deal with this all the time. Essentially, if you are not able to get it in, what you want to do is just loosen up those side plate bolts, so that way you got a little bit of wiggle room, then you can get the feet in, and then we can retighten this back down. That's kind of the same as whenever you're setting it up for like a base rail setup. Typically you have to loosen some stuff and then drop it in, and then you can kind of get it back in place. Now, because that even cuts down our clearance here a little bit more to where I'm not really going to be able to get in there and tighten these back down fully, I've took off the little side plates here. So these are held in with just 2 Phillips head screws. You can pop those right back out and then get your hand and wrench in there so that you can actually tighten those down. And honestly, you will be popping these off every now and then anyway, because you'll have to lubricate and you'll want to check your gears every once in a while. But we can keep going with our install here. I am going to retorque these back down now that we're in place, and then we'll move forward. So now it's time to install our hitch head, and we're going to have this little blue dampener that's going to pop in here. So we'll press that into place, and this is just going to help create a little bit of a cushion between this and the actual fifth wheel hitch base, so that way it's not smacking metal on metal there. It's going to have a little bit of protection. So now we can bring this back. And we'll pull out the pin that we have running through our base, lift up our pin and clip, pop that out, then we can set the hitch head in place. Once it's in, we'll stick that big pin back through. Make sure we're fully lined up here. There we go. And just remember, you put that pin and clip back in to lock it into place. Next, we can get our handle ready to go. And this one's going to be pretty simple. You can change how you want it to sit, but I'm going to have it so it's facing more towards the driver's side here. We'll pop in our bolt, and then there's going to be a little lock nut on there that we're going to tighten down. And I'm tightening this down with a 9/16 socket and wrench here. I'm just going to go till it's nice and snug. And now one thing I forgot to adjust is also this plate up front. So now that we have this fully in place, we can loosen up our jam nuts. Let this fully sit down. Tighten that up. And then our jam nut on the bottom. All right. Next we'll come back with a 3/4 inch wrench and then a second one so that we can tighten down both jam nuts. There we go. And that should do it for our install. Well, that's going to do it for our look at and installation of the Demco Autoslide fifth wheel trailer hitch for the OE puck system for GM here in our 2025 GMC Sierra 2500. My name's Kevin, and if you still have some questions about what's going to be the right trailer hitch for your setup, please feel free to reach out to us via our Ask the Experts link, a comment on this video, or a phone call to our customer service department, and we'd be happy to help you out on your journey.